Let's move on to one of our main topics was the Jake Paul versus Ben Askren fight. Jake Paul came out, obviously he talked the talk and he walked the walk about, what was it, a minute in, knocked out Ben Askren with a simple 1-2. Shocked the world, shocked the boxing world, shocked Twitter, shocked everyone.
Yeah.
And honestly, Eric, I look at this fight and I see the outcome and I just begin to question everything. You know,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I begin to question everything. What makes sense anymore? Because this was supposed to be Ben Askren's fight.
Jake Paul was going to destroy Ben Askren 100%.
This is the question. How do you come up with that? How do you just say that and just look at Jake Paul's career, or boxing career? Just look back. He fought Nate Robinson, who's 5'4" and a retired basketball player, has zero boxing experience, and then he beat the first guy who was another YouTuber.
Okay, but you have to see it like this. Jake Paul, he's been in boxing for 2.5 to 3 years. He sparred a bunch of MMA fighters, boxers, and they all every time they say, Jake Paul, he's gonna win. Like everyone he's sparred has said something good about Jake Paul. And also, Ben Askren is probably one of the worst strikers in UFC history. You have to take that into consideration. But the only reason people gave Ben Askren a chance was, he's an MMA fighter. He's taken hits from some of the strongest, like this guy called Robbie Lawler in the MMA and the UFC. This guy is so powerful, and with their gloves in the UFC, Ben was taking shots after shots and didn't get knocked out. And then Jake Paul hits him with the most basic.
That's what I'm saying.
The most basic punch in boxing.
1-2.
Hits him with a 1-2.
I guess begs the question, Eric. Was this a fixed fight? Was Ben Askren on it or in it the whole time? Did Jake Paul slide him an extra bag of cash and say, "Listen, this is what's going to happen"?
I don't think so. You also have to see it like this. Ben Askren, he's 36. He's retired. He's one of the worst strikers in UFC history.
Clearly didn't train for the fight.
Yeah.
Clearly didn't train in the weigh-in. But I'll be honest, when I saw the dad bod, I thought I was literally about to bet more money on him. I just don't know. I just thought it was like the fact that he didn't care that much. And I just thought he was so confident going into the fight. And the dad bod just made me trust him more. And
but
clearly I was
confident. If you listen to his press conference, he was like, if Jake Paul's a good boxer, I'm going to lose. If Jake Paul's a bad boxer, I'm going to win. That's what he was saying. Ben Askren's like, I know I'm not a good boxer, but if Jake Paul's a good boxer, he's going to beat me. If he's not, I'm going to beat him, but I don't believe he's a good boxer. I've seen a lot of videos like Jake Paul has been putting in the work. A lot. From this fight, he's gaining a lot of respect, but this is what he's doing right now. He's just trying to climb up the ladder, right? So he starts with a YouTuber, and then he goes to an athlete.
Yeah.
And then now he goes to a fighter who's not a good striker. And then now he's going to go up another step. So I'm guessing next is going to be probably an MMA fighter who's like Tyrone Woodley, like a really good
There's
fighter.
Dylan Francis that's calling Jake Paul out. Dylan Dennis, sorry.
But no one likes, I hate Dylan Dennis with a passion. I really don't like Dylan Dennis. This guy's a troll. He thinks he's all that. And you probably know Dylan Dennis. He's Khabib when he had that fight with Conor?
No, I know who he is. I've seen his face before. And
so he's just a troll. This guy, he's just looking for. I really don't like him. I don't know if that fight happens. I'd actually be like, I don't really like Jake Paul that much, but I respect what he's done for boxing and what he's been able to accomplish. But if Jake Paul fights Dylan Dennis, I want Jake Paul to beat the shit out of Dylan Dennis so bad.
Really?
Dylan Dennis, he's not even known as a striker either. He's a jiu-jitsu guay. If he beats him, it's just like it'd be better for Jake, because every time Jake Paul fights, at the end, all you hear is, Nate Robinson's not good, like Ben Askren's not good. So it's always like excuses for his opponent. Because people don't like Jake Paul, so they're just watching the fights to see him lose, right? And Jake Paul said a bunch of times, he's doing all this. He just wants to fight Conor McGregor. It would be if he was ever able to climb up the ranks and be able to fight Conor McGregor, you know how
that would sell millions.
For sure.
Of pay-per-view. So then, the question is, who's next? Who's Jake Paul fighting next? Who's the most realistic or the potential? What's the most realistic potential matchup?
Yeah, I saw an odds on who the best odds for him to fight next. So maybe Dylan Dennis is up there. Dylan Dennis been talking a lot, but people want him to go higher than Dylan Dennis. They think Dylan Dennis wouldn't be too much of a challenge because Jake Paul would probably be the favorite in the fight. There's Tyron Woodley, so who's one of Ben Askren's friends, really good friends. You probably saw that video of him in the locker room. He was they already have like a little beef going on there. And then there's another fighter that fought on that card. His name's like Joe Fournier. I didn't even see the fight, but apparently that guy's really good. And he had Jake Paul's ex-girlfriend in his corner too. So maybe there's something going on there. And he's an experienced fighter too. So maybe that fight would be a good fight. People just want to see him fight an actual fighter.
Well, KSI has gone on record saying he plans on fighting Jake Paul, but only when there's a full stadium allowed and people can come see the fight. That's when he plans on fighting Jake Paul. So maybe not KSI, the next potential fighter. Who knows if Jake Paul still wants to fight KSI after he thinks he's such a hot shot now. Maybe he asked for someone better, someone more popular in the boxing community or the UFC community.
For sure.
So only time will tell. Obviously, did you see that the pregame in the locker room with Pete Davidson and Jake Paul? That was hilarious. Pete Davidson. Let's move to probably our last question on this topic. Boxing icons come out and say this is an embarrassment to sport. A lot of sports media personnel saying that this is an embarrassment to the game. Others are saying, well, this is actually saving the game because the UFC has clearly taken over the number one spot. What side do you lean towards, Eric?
I'll be honest. I've been on kind of both sides. I was a KSI fan like for a while. You probably know that. Like I was always like an MMA boxing fan, but this helped me become even more of a fighting fan. And there's people like Mike Tyson. They think this is good for the sport. Mike Tyson was talking about, he's like, sport's never been healthier. It's so much attraction towards boxing. You've never seen this attraction since like Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. Like, but if you think about it, the only big fights that we ever talk about for boxing is Floyd versus someone. It's always Floyd versus. You never hear any type of other fights. You see Ryan Garcia, he's starting to use social media.
Yes, Ryan Garcia.
He's starting to build something there. So now boxing is going through social media to now become something bigger, right?
At first I didn't like it, but now that when you look at the numbers and the stats, they just don't lie. Just basically the bare minimum of attention and fans that the sport gets through Jake Paul fighting or KSI Logan Paul, it builds the sport. And even though some person or an adult or boxing icon, whatever, who's been around the sports for years and back in those glory days of the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. I can see their point of view looking at the game now and being like, what the hell happened? This used to be the number one thing in this type of business, but then Dana White kind of brought the UFC to that helm, and now they kind of fallen down to number two. But like you said, Mike Tyson said it, this is good for the sport. This is good for young people to pay attention to the sport. Who knows? Maybe there's a lot of people who are Jake Paul fans, Logan Paul fans, YouTube fans, whatever, that are only going to watch boxing when they fight. But who knows what's that small percentage of those fans that just stick around and say, hey, listen, I'm kind of into the sport now.